Welcome to Studio Channel Islands, our first Facebook Live event. So before I introduce our speakers, I would like to do some thanks. I'd like to firstly thank all of the artists who donated work for this exhibition. This is without a doubt, I think, our most impressive collector's choice exhibition, and that is down to your generosity as artists who've donated work to us. And so I'd like to thank you all for donating work into the show. There were over 400 pieces offered into the show, and a little under 100 of them made it into the room. So a stiff competition. Then I'd like to thank Joe Laurier for selecting the work to be in the show, and just to say that we're all looking forward to her talk on the 17th of April. She's going to visit the gallery between now and then, and when she comes, she's going to see the show and she's going to select the winners of her choices for first, second, and third place. I'd like to thank Bob Privet for hanging the show, and his team, Marion Wood and Craig Mead. They were working all day. It's a labour of love to put together an exhibition, and we will be talking to Bob about how he goes about making the exhibition in just a moment. Finally, I'd like to thank the board of directors at Studio Channel Islands for working with us over the summer so that we are here to be open in a few days when the gallery is ready to open. We're going to speak next to Bob. Bob Privet is Emeritus Professor at Pepperdine University. He received his MFA in 1971, and he's been hanging exhibitions ever since. And then I'm going to talk to 6 of our artists in residence. So here at Studio Channel Islands we have artist studios, and 6 of those artists are in the show today. So I was going to speak with 6 of them to talk about their work, and then to pick out a work that they like that's in the show here.
Hi, my name is Bob Privet. I'm a sculptor. I've installed shows at Studio Channel Islands ever since they started out on the Cal State Channel Islands campus. I'd like to talk about some of the ways that I think whenever I get ready to install a show. I want to start with the easy things first. Let's come over here. If you're going strictly on shape, here's a vertical, a horizontal, and a kind of a square. That's one of the things that I use whenever I start thinking about the relationship of all of the pieces to each other. Now, when you look at this painting, here's another aspect that I talk about. When you look at this painting, I see soft colors. I see floating images that are not nailed down solid. And the same thing is happening in this watercolor, where the use of water is actually at the forefront. There's very soft colors that sort of float and blend and merge together. And then, when you look at this painting, I did not know the title of this painting when I was hanging it, but the title is Yet Scars Remain. And the first thing I saw in this painting was this scar. Because I'm aware of a scar in my life, then it immediately jumped out to me. Now, why did you put this nice, colorful, happy painting here, and this happy painting here, next to this gutty thing? Because I wanted the contrast. I wanted the bounce. And so when you come to look at this one, you see the contrast. Mood, happy mood, mood, happy mood. And then all of a sudden, gutty mood. That's something that I frequently do when I get ready to create a show. Now, I'm aware, as a sculptor, I'm aware of space. If you look at this painting, and then you scan and go to that painting over there, this space for me in between here This is a real palpable space. There's energy in this space. And once you see here, you bounce over here. The reason, this is the same paper. Now, okay, now let's go to this piece right here. I moved these movable partitions in such a way so that it formed a little triangle. And now then, you look at the photograph here, the photograph here, and now then you come down and you've got another triangle. And when you look at this ceramic piece, now I hang the show, so I get to handle things. But look at the buttery surface. Oh, it's just so rich. It makes me think of maybe a chess pie with specks of cinnamon and nutmeg in it. Oh, not really. Now then, take a look at this image right here. To me, this reminds me of a faded ghost butterfly. Now, look carefully there. Now, look carefully here. You can see that image slightly repeated. Oh, I used my imagination. But these are things that I think about. Now then, you remember this curve on this piece over here. Look at this curve right here, and look at this curve right here. Very subtle curves. Those are things that I think about. How can I fix it so that the show is starting to cohere, to hang together? And those are things that I think about. Now, let's move around. Remembering this. Remembering the little marks that are shooting out from the center point. And then repeated here in this. So that now then there is a relationship between the two pieces. Look at the color relationships here. A kind of a hard red color, but softer colors in here that are almost there but not quite. And look at the rhythm up and down and diagonal right here. Now look at what's happening here in this piece, where you've got boom chakalaka, boom chakalaka, boom chakalaka, over and over and over, the same repetitious motion. Then I'm moving to this color, this piece right here, and look at the color relationship between this piece, where instead of a nice hard fixed image, it bounces. All sorts of things happening. Now look at the color relationship between this painting, this piece, and that painting. Suddenly now, you're involved in an awareness of the diversity, yes, but also the relationships. Now, let's move gently around this way. Mysterious, monochromatic. Then look over here at this sunflower. The face here, the faces of the sunflowers. But I wanted to put this piece next to these monochromatic pieces to get that bounce going. So that here you've got this excited, bright color that is bouncing and jumping around, whereas here it's somber. There is that contrast. And those are some of the things that I really like to play with.
Our next speaker is going to be Elana Kundell, and she's going to talk just for a moment about her own work and then talk about a work that's spoken to her within the show.
Huge shout out to all the artists who participated in submitting work and all those who donated. It's a really beautiful show. I highly recommend that everyone make an appointment when possible to see it live. So this is my piece right here. It's Anything Goes, and it's study 1.19. So this is part of a series that began in 2014, and the the main theme of it is play and possibility. As in a number of other works, it has a particular mood. I think this piece is kind of speaking to form emerging from formlessness, and my work is usually around color relationships and mood and emotion, the instability of color and how it interacts as a kind of extension of relationships in the real world. I also really like to blur the lines between the body, the environment, still life. I like to blur the lines of genre in the work. The work that I chose to highlight, actually, I'd like to maybe step back and highlight this whole arrangement. So I'm going to speak to this piece by Ariane Leiter, Black and White Circle, which is really interesting because this has a very interesting form of an ancient urn, but it also is taking on a life of its own. It feels like it's embodying something. It almost has the shape of a Venus of Willendorf. So there's like a bit of life force emerging. It's mysterious. The texture is really intriguing. And what I would say is that it's interesting that I see the relationship with the use of space with my painting, but on the other hand, it's really symbolic and suggestive, and I would love to have a piece like this in my home. And so it's amazing. I just want to really acknowledge all of these artists that have generously donated to this beautiful arts organization so that we can all carry on the excellent work in the region. Thanks, guys. Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you, Elana. Our next speaker is going to be Molly Doctorow.
The name of my piece is Prickly Pear, and my process usually are inspired by walks out in nature, hiking, and I usually go sketch right while I'm in the field or take photos, and then when I get back to the studio, I'll do more sketches, and I'll transfer the sketch to wood. And so I finish the image carving in wood. I also will add detail as I'm building up the image with calligraphy brushes and ink. The image is realistic, but also expressive. I tried to capture the initial energy that I had from the inspiration. The inspiration for this piece was really how the light was forming on the cactus. I took an early morning walk, and I saw these cactus kind of growing on the ground, and the light caught my eye, and one of the cactus were also reaching up to the sun, so I noticed them in the walk. The work of these plants really fit into my larger focus of work, which is native habitats. I would consider myself a conservation artist because I like to go to one habitat and then get involved in a very involved way, studying the plants and all of the features of the habitat. I'm currently working on a series from the Mojave Desert, and I've been doing a series of scenics as well as plants in detail. And my work is representational, but also expressive in terms of using the visual language of art to convey texture, movement, energy, and rhythm. And that's kind of a summary overview of what I'm doing. So the work I chose is by Regina Vorgang. It's a weaving, and it's called Lifelines Table Runner 17. I think what caught my eye immediately were the color and shapes and the rhythm of the forms, and really drew me in. I mean, I could stand here and look at it for a very long time. I love the way the forms are abstractly, but they also allude to forms in nature. I mean, like a river and mountains and trees, and I think of fall or summer. So it has a lot of connotations that keep my eye involved. I think there's also a lot of subtlety in the way the forms bleed through at the edges, and then there's these subtle blue lines that are running through it. So it has also just these little touches that really engage my eye. I would love to have this in my house. It's been designed as a table runner, and I think it would be awesome on a table because then you could view it from different angles, and every time you sat at a different place on the table, you would see it differently. And so I love that aspect of it. I think I would want to hang it on the wall in my house, though. I really think I would never get tired of it.
Thank you, Molly. That was a really interesting insight into your work, and we really do enjoy your work in the show. So our next speaker is Melanie Roschko, and she's an abstract painter, and her work is back where Bob was introducing us to how he hangs work. So we're just going to walk back around the gallery in this direction.
My work is entitled Sunshine on My Shoulders. It's part of a series that started after I was able to come back in the studio with COVID occurring. And I was quite surprised that my paintings started becoming very happy. And I wasn't sure what was going on. Finally dawned on me that I was painting things and places that I thought I would like to go, and I can't because of COVID. So they're all kind of fanciful. Some look landscapey, some don't, and they've just been a lot of fun to do. And I hope that you come and enjoy the show and participate in it. It's been one of our favorite events here at Studio Channel Islands. The pieces that I was really drawn to, something that I don't do a lot with is patience and little tiny things, although I made jewelry once upon it. They're fascinating pieces of paper. They're all recycled paper, these little tiny pieces, and they're just something that I really have enjoyed looking at. I think you would love to have it. You can always find a place for something tiny like this. And they're just really, let me show you the other one also. I just think they're just gorgeous little gems. And they hardly weigh anything because they're all paper. And they're just, for your ticket, this would be a wonderful thing to have.
So Melanie was just mentioning there about tickets. And for those of you who are not familiar with Collector's Choice, at the end of this exhibition, we have a fundraising event at which everybody who has a ticket gets to come into an event, and their name is drawn at random. And when their name is drawn, they get to select an artwork they take home. Tickets are $300, and it's our major spring fundraising event. And it really is one of the most fun events we have in the calendar. And as Melanie said, it's a great way to build a collection of work and to find work by artists who you've not seen before. We find this exhibition to be one of our best networking exhibitions for artists because we just see so much great work, and we really enjoy hosting it here. And this year it's going to be on until May the 22nd, which is when we have the event, so a much longer show than normal. I'm going to bring our next speaker on, which is Joe Saberi. Joe's work is conveniently located immediately to the right of Melanie's work, and here comes Joe, fresh from having been teaching over in his studio.
Is that it? Yeah. Great show. It was really hard to decide, as Jamie knows. What do I pick? Well, I've judged a lot of shows, and what I pick is usually 180 degrees from the way I paint, because I so appreciate how everybody else does stuff. For me, it's the mystery, it's the magic. I have to figure it out. So I paint basically landscape, contemporary, and watercolor is the medium or water media. And this is typical of letting the watercolor paint itself, which I am a big believer in. It makes me a better artist because all I have to do is half a painting. I'm not good enough to put down every stroke. That's why I choose watercolor and water medium. But I did not pick that for what hit me. Usually when you go to a museum, you take a quick spin and something goes, wow. And you go back to it and you study it and you say, how the heck did they do that? First of all, I consider myself a designer, not a painter. My first love is design, and that's where I go to. And whatever this medium is, it doesn't make any difference. It's all about the design. But this, I can't even fathom how they did this. I don't know how they did it. It just looks impossible for me to figure that out. First of all, I'm not that patient. I have to throw paint. I have to slop paint. But this I like, and my work in the last few years has become more and more a combination of realism and abstraction. So I really appreciate, and that boils down to me to be design. So I love this palette, and I like the medium. I like the medium, and there's such amount of detail and patience and intricacy. Don't know how they did it. So anyway, that's my take. So I'm usually 180 degrees from what I do to somebody else. I totally appreciate that's what makes art so cool.
Thank you, Joe. We appreciate your enthusiasm about work which we really love as well in this show, and we're really pleased to have your piece up where we just started. So I'm standing here next to one of our viewers' pieces. I think, Charles, you're watching us online right now, and this is one of the few pieces of digital artwork that we have, and it's really unusual for us to have a digitally made piece. And I think none of our artists have talked about that kind of work, because it is, I think, something which is new and which we're kind of learning to appreciate. And so I just want to take a moment by this piece, because I know that we're touching on the ceramics and the fiber and the painting, but we haven't really touched on this kind of work. And so I'm going to just give Charles a shout out down this end of the gallery. I was reminded to say that you can come in to see the show, so please do go onto our website and have a look at how you can book an appointment. Appointments are available next week to come in and have a private tour of the gallery. And we are hoping, as the COVID numbers decline, that we'll be having a sort of general admission fairly soon. It looks like we're going to be able to open fully to the public in the next week or so. So I'm going to introduce our next speaker now, which is Michael Rohde.
Well, it's so nice to talk to everyone about all the work in the show. This is a remarkable collection of pieces that Joe Loria has selected, and I'm honored to have two pieces in this. I'm just going to talk about one. My medium is textiles. I'm a weaver. I weave tapestries. Most often the work is large and much more dramatic than this piece. But I love working with silk yarns because they have such wonderful reflective qualities. And so this is the piece here. It's called Eightyone Rose Yellow. For this series, I set about dyeing the yarns for them all. I wound up with something like 500 different shades of yarn. And so the work becomes a effort of exploring how color and shape work together. The loom operates on a grid, so I've always honored the rectangular aspect of the grid, and that's how I work with most of my pieces. I would like to talk about another artist's work, and that's McClellan, and she's over this way. A painting by McClellan in oil and acrylic. And you can probably see from what I just said about my own work, one of the things that draws me to this piece is the use of the rectal and form. But the other thing that I like about it, and it's something that I'm not able to do easily in weaving, is to give really soft edges and have colors overlap and overlay each other. Another thing that I like, that I've addressed in my own work on the larger pieces, is the use of language. And so in this way, all of that layering gives me a sense of a palimpsest. So there's probably language hidden in there that we can't see, so there's a mystery about it. And that's why I like the piece. Thank you.
Now, and we're going to go back across the gallery one last time to go and talk to Mary, who's standing next to one of her pieces, and then she's going to pick out for us her favourite pieces from the show.
I am Mary McGill, and I am one of the artists here, as you know. And I think today, the pieces that I entered into this show and event, which also is my favorite event, this first one is called In My Mind's Eye. And as a sculptor, I like to tell a story, and all the pieces do tell a story. For me, I don't necessarily need the viewer to know my story, but I like them to see something. I like it to bring out an emotion. So this one is definitely all about abundance. You know, the bunny, the large breast, it's abundance, fertility. And then I also, intelligence, in my mind's eye. You know, she's thinking. So, like I said, I love to tell a story. Then I have another piece that I entered, which is over there. This show was curated. We as artists, we have nothing to do with the curating of it. This piece is together. She actually would be sitting down there, and she would be gazing up into his eyes, and he would be gazing down to hers. They're separate for, you know, reasons of whatever show, but this is one piece, and this is called It's a Myth. And whoever winds up with this piece, I hope it goes to a good home, but there is a story, and I would love to tell it to you, but we're going to keep it private for today. And but again, my cats, I like to give them human emotion, and I like them to show feeling, because everything that I do with feeling. I thought that the ceramics in this show were remarkable, and people are so generous, and this also is one of my favorite pieces, and this piece by Joan Karp is beautiful. All the work is, but I think my favorite that I'd like to point out is on the other side of the gallery, so let's go for a little walk. This piece is from an artist named Patsy Pitts, and I am amazed at people's artistry, and I thought she was so, this piece is so vibrant and alive, and I appreciate the talent that went into her. And again, all the ceramics in the show were remarkable, and thank you so much for viewing us today.
Thank you for joining us, and hopefully we will be able to see you in the gallery really soon. Thank you, and enjoy your afternoon.